Screw shot training then. We're going to show a few videos that we made side on to a selection of screw shots that we both played at the table. And we'll start with out any props. Let's have a look what happens here. I'm just going to draw a horizontal line through the cue here so we can see where the cue's pointing, where it backswings and where it finishes up. So there we are, there's the plane of the cue. Now the other thing that is worthwhile noting here is the distance of the tip away from the cue ball. It's about an inch, a good inch away from the cue ball. And that makes it harder to know and determine exactly what height you're addressing the cue ball, and therefore whether you're right at the lowest part of the ball and whether you're hitting side spin or not. So we've got an exercise coming up that's going to help with that quite a lot, that I found really useful not only for my own game but for others as well. But let's have a look and see where the cue follows through to. Okay, pretty parallel and flat through the ball, which is excellent. The cue is finished halfway between red and black, which normally you'd like to see a bit more than that. It may be a sign that the hand has not finished into the chest, the grip hand, into its natural stop position in the chest. It may have stopped early, but let's have a look by comparison to what I'm doing. So immediately I'm a bit closer to the cue ball there, and it helps me see very, very clearly exactly where my tip is against the cue ball. Otherwise, simply I don't know, it's just guesswork. And nothing's worse than guesswork in this marvellous game. And you can see I'm a little bit lower on the ball than you were. And let's go flat through with the line. We'll see where the cue ends up. But I'm spending a lot of time here on the cue action just making sure the tip's close enough to the cue ball that I can actually see where I'm aiming it and striking it. So that's screwed back fairly effortlessly, and the follow through has gone all the way to the black ball this time, so it's about double the follow through and possibly a little bit less speed as well. That just shows that the grip hand has gone all the way and been stopped into the chest and been stopped by the chest on the delivery. Now the next exercise is one I found really, really useful. Just put a book there. There is one on the market called How to Make 100 Break. Great book it is. Really useful for laying on the table next to the cue ball and seeing how high you're addressing on the cue ball, acting as a set of stabilisers for those who are nervous about miscuing. As long as the tip's touching the paper, you can't miscue if you've put enough pages down in front of the ball. Now, this exercise here, look at your long cue actions there, just going backwards all the way to the edge of the screen and forwards. It's a little bit harder to judge where the cue ball is with those longer cue actions. But you've done very well there to touch it a few times and without moving the ball hardly. This is my cue this time, and you can see my cue actions are a little bit shorter, and I'm touching up to the cue ball almost with the tip of the cue, which is allowing me to feel where the cue ball is, see where the cue ball is, and just move the tip very close to the cue ball. The exercise here is touch the cue ball 3 times without moving it if you can do, then play the shot. That reduces fear of touching the cue ball, because if you know how to touch it gently, you know how to avoid touching it, and that means you will get much more comfortable being close enough to the ball that you see a shadow of the tip and the ferrule in the cue ball, just like Jimmy White, and then you'll know exactly with precision whether you're at the lowest part of the ball or not, just by that visual reference. So there you go, it's touching the ball, hardly moving it, and just those small feathers are making it much easier for me to do that without moving the cue ball. We'll just do that one more time. So what's really helping me here is the shorter cue actions and the fact I've practiced it a lot as well. Your target is to touch the ball without moving it. Don't even have to play the shot. You can just practice that 3 times, play the shot or not play the shot, up to you. but it's a great little practice for cue skills. So what we're doing here is practicing different heights on the cue ball. Make sure the tip touches the paper as you deliver the ball, so that you're getting a consistent height strike on the ball, and that the tip and the cue finish touching the top page of the book that's in front of the cue ball. Okay, this is me having a go. Slightly longer follow through this time. It just shows again the grip hand following through into the chest. And we're going lower here. Just step by step going lower. About 10 pages of this book, of a standard book, is about 1 millimetre. So each page is about 1/10 of a millimetre. Going lower and lower toward the edge of the ball. Now you can hear the tone of the ball, the tone of the strike beginning to change. Listen. As opposed to the first shot. Listen. Very different strike sound, isn't it? Gone a bit lower again here. Very different, that, isn't it? And that's a good exercise, actually, that will really help you straight cueing. After the delivery, just wait there until the ball comes back and touches the tip. Removes the fear of following through with the cue and fouling the white ball, because you'll actually learn how difficult that is to do consistently. And great test of straight cueing as well. If you go straight through the ball and you hit the ball in the centre of the pocket, if you had a straight pot, you'll get the deliberate foul there. Now we're almost at the limit of the ball, so I'm going 1 or 2 pages at a time now. Make sure you chalk before every shot so you get a reliable result. And that's beginning to sound very, very low. A couple of extra pages. So what we've got here, we've come a couple of pages more. Two pages that was. 1 or 2, I think. Finally, we got a miscue. That was the target all along, to inch or millimetre, 1/10 of a millimetre, lower and lower and lower until you get the miscue. Then you learn the limit of the ball. What was that, 1 page? I didn't see that. Slow motion, frame advance. Looks like 1 page, doesn't it? Let's go half speed here. Let's blow up the contact on the ball as well. That was interesting. To some, anyway. Let's just do frame advance on that. Touching the paper. Let's just scoop the ball up straight away. That's 1 page that we've done there. Now we're going frame advance again. And there we go. clean contact. 1/10 of a millimetre difference, that is. So we found the limit of the ball very reliably, and you do that once a day whenever you go into practice. Eventually you'll be completely comfortable with where the limit on the ball is, both topspin, backspin, side spin, left and right, and then you'll have a much greater range of spin capability on the cue ball. Even had a double kiss on the red. Now this is interesting because, let's go at full speed here. If we just go back to the previous video, the cue there is fairly close to horizontal. Get a clean contact. Same number of pages, but actually I think the cue is very slightly steeper than mine was. I mean literally 4 degrees probably steeper. In other words, the bridge hand is maybe 2 or 3 millimeters higher, so the butt of the cue has to be about a centimetre or 2 higher than the butt of my cue. So the solution there is either to lower the bridge 2 or 3 millimeters. If you can't do that and keep a solid V of the bridge, just bring the cue back, the bridge hand back a centimetre or 2. That again will lower the butt of the cue while remaining low on the cue ball. Or if you're not comfortable with either of those, just aim a little bit higher on the ball, because the bottom of the cue ball, if your cue was at this angle here, look, then this represents bottom of the cue ball, doesn't it? But you're actually, that line there represents bottom of the cue ball, doesn't it? If your cue's pointing down in that direction, whereas from here, if you contact the same part of the cue ball, that's dead center, isn't it? From the cue of that elevation, that's dead center, isn't it? Yet if the cue is parallel to the bed of the table, that would actually be just above center, wouldn't it? You'd be putting a tiny amount of topspin on that, all same contact point physically on the white ball, but depending on cue elevation, you're actually changing your relationship to the limit of the cue ball. Anyhow, let's remove these wonderful diagrams. Allow the shot to be played. Result, miscue, which is predictable because we were right on the limit with that number of pages. A couple of pages extra to compensate for the slightly steeper angle, rather than get involved in trying to get the cue lower and change bits of technique. This was just an exercise in screw shots. It was a semi-miscue. That was a miscue light. One more page. Let's see if we get a clean contact. And there we are, the cue touching the paper as you delivered. I think it sounded a bit suspect there, on the verge of a miscue, so one extra page just as a bit of insurance, a bit of clean strike insurance. And also, as I was saying there, the shape of the tip is different, the style of cue is different, so they all play small factors as well in where the limit of the ball is. That was also a little bit suspect. Eventually we'll get to a clean strike. Plenty of chalk on the cue. And very consistent angling of the cue here, which is good. Repetitive technique is good. Slightly suspect sound on the delivery there. Bit of chalk. Give it one extra page. There you go. So, nice little lesson on learning the limits of the cue ball there. Do that once a week or once a day until you're much more familiar with it, and the range of your game will improve dramatically.